Hello and welcome. My name is Idris, and in this video we're going to make a model inside of ZbrushCore. What I mean is that ZBrush has modeling tools built in that are absent from ZbrushCore, but there's a hidden feature inside of the 3D gizmo that allows us to make some extrusions. So using that we can build some basic geometry without leaving ZbrushCore. So this works. I've imported a cube, but you can use any geometry from ZBrush. So this works only with Polymesh 3D, so no primitives. So if you have a primitive, you have to click Make Polymesh 3D. And this works with any Polymesh 3D that isn't subdivided, so no subdivision levels, and with Dynamesh, since Dynamesh doesn't have subdivs. And all you need to do is, we're going to turn off perspective. We don't need the floor. All you need to do to extrude the parts of your mesh is to mask the parts you don't want to move. And if you hold Control, so let's say I want to turn off symmetry. If I have Control, this white part with the 3D gizmo activated. So as I hold Control and click on the Move tool, you can see it's making extrusion, so it's adding geometry. One more time. And as you can see, as I keep extruding, ZbrushCore automatically masks the previous extrusion, so you can keep on going like so. And you can move it, extrude, move it, extrude, move it down. And as you keep moving, and you can, let's say I want to mask this, unmask this, invert my mask. So now I have these two corners. Hold Control and move, and now I can extrude only those two corners. And if, as I'm holding Control, if I press the Shift button, it will snap. So I can make more precise extrusion. So if I only wanted to extrude from a certain amount, holding Shift, I can snap to the amount I want to. Now, if you wanted to work on a symmetrical mesh, I'm going to lower my microphone like so. So if you wanted to work using symmetry, the documentation recommends you turn on local symmetry. And what I found is that if you want to work with symmetry, so let's extrude, invert my selection. So let's extrude on both sides at the same time. What you want to do is use the scale along the axis you want to extrude instead of moving. Because if you move like so, you can see that it's not working since it extruded in along the axis. But if you press Control and scale along that axis, now it's working, it's behaving the way you want it. So if you want to extrude in symmetry, both sides at the same time, instead of using the arrow, use the scale on the axis you want, so X, Y, or Z. And if you use the uniform scaling, so the middle, you can bevel your model. You could also just extrude it and scale it down, but it's one less step. So yeah, using all these tools, you can make some very basic geometry. So yeah, now I'm going to use all these tools, and I'm going to make a chest that I've already made just before this video, just to try out the tools. So I made this chest in an hour to see if it's possible to make your base mesh or low poly asset, and then make your high poly version all inside of ZbrushCore. So you still need to unwrap your low poly model, bake and paint inside another package. But the more tools you have for the software you have, the better. It's also a great way to make some clean base mesh or base meshes, or some hard surface model. So yeah, you could make some very very fine. Oops. See, if I don't have anything masked and I press Control, it's gonna duplicate my subtool. But if I mask only parts of it, like so, then I can make some very, very sharp and possibly intricate details. So yeah, now on to the quick demo, and I'll comment over that as well. And we're back, and now we're going to make this beautiful piece of art. So yeah, this is it's a super ghetto test piece, just to try out the tool concept for this video. So I imported a cube, and I subdivided. I imported the cube. I made a simple cube because the one that comes with ZbrushCore has some weird geometry. So I imported a cube, a simple, very simple cube, then subdivided it 3 times, and then I have to delete the subdivision levels, or else this will not work. Right there, I was just moving my geometry so that I moved it into position. So since I'm going for a low poly, turn off Dynamesh, I'm going for a low poly version. I tried to use the topology the subdivision gave me to not waste any topology. In the end, you can still see, I'm doing exactly what I said in the intro. So there's not a lot of more to it. Just mask the parts you don't want to move. So mask the part you want to move, then invert the mask. It's a lot easier, and then use Control and the 3D Gizmo tools to make your extrusion. So yeah, I wanted to make a low poly version, but you have to make a low poly version with the tools you have. So I made a chest because it was an easy shape. I didn't have to think about it too much. And now I used the box, and then masking it, masking the parts I wanted. I just scaled it to make the rounded parts. They're just masking and moving. And now I'm going to select the inner part, scale it down, and move it into position. And then I tweak the shape to make it a little bit more cartoony. And then I appended a new cube. And then I wanted to make a skull lock. So I'm extruding, trying to mimic the shape of a skull. But then I thought, how is that even going to work? Because you can't really have a key that fits inside the eye sockets and the mouth. How would that work? You can't turn the key. So I ended up scrapping that. But yeah, essentially now the low poly chest is done. So this is how you would do, it took me maybe 10 minutes to make a low poly version. You have some wasted geometry in the middle, but for nowadays, it's not a big deal. Now I'm trying to make a high poly version of our low poly. So I'm subdividing without smooth turned on to keep the hard edges as much as possible. I smooth that curve a little bit. Subdivided. Since I have an arc, it's giving me a bit of artifacts. So with hard polish brush, I'm going over the problematic shading. Since it's a chest made of planks, it's not a big problem. And now I am going to mask. I'm going to polygroup everything, so it's easier for me to work on the planks. So I'm just going over everything, just polygrouping so I can hide, and then polygroup everything, the planks together, like so. Now I'm going to do the same for the top, but it's a lot easier. Now that I've finished the chest, I'm thinking that on the side of the top, the old top of the chest on the side, I think I should have made some planks made in extrusion there as well, to have some planks show on the side. But in my head, it made sense that it would be a big piece of metal for some reason. And now I'm just going over with trim dynamic, and I'm going to add a bit of a detail. This is completely unnecessary to the point of this video, because the point was showing you the extrusion tools inside of ZbrushCore. But this way you can see that you could make your I'm using the Damien standard with the snap tool to make those straight lines. So hold shift and let go to make a straight line, to carve in my planks. So yeah, the point was to show that you could make a low poly model, and then you could make your high poly model, and then you could do everything, all that inside of ZbrushCore. So this is all this is. It's just a test. Imported that brush we did in the previous video on making custom brushes inside of ZbrushCore. For some reason, it wouldn't draw the line on the bottom, so I just cranked the lazy mouse to the maximum. So yeah, ended up making a generic keyhole. Adding a bit of wear. So yeah, it's super janky, huh? You're supposed to do better. This is just a test piece. But you will do better. I'm sure of it. But yeah, if ZbrushCore is the only software you have because you got it with your tablet, there are ways to stick with ZbrushCore and maximize the things you can do with it. Because you could have just exported the low poly version and hand painted it inside of Photoshop or an equivalent. You still need the software to unwrap it, but you could use Blender. It wouldn't cost you any more. Now I'm going over all the planks and trying to get some wood grain detail, just to have something to bake inside of the high poly version. You can see how fast I'm going. It's super janky. It's just a test piece. Not sure if you can see how much I'm not committing to this. I can do better, I swear. But anyways, yes, so this is the high poly done. And now you can export. I've exported the model before. Now you could export the high poly. I'm just making a rough, very super quick poly paint, because you can export a VML. Well, you can export the model for printing in color, and you can use that to transfer some color information. Not all software can export the color, but you could see my video I did on making game assets inside of ZbrushCore, and I explain how to transfer all of this. And that's pretty much it. Like always, like, share, and subscribe. It helps. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.